757 Saturday Sports Talk with Matt Hatfield on ESPN Radio 94.1.
Good Saturday morning on this 13th day of March, one day before Selection Sunday. Welcome to another installment of 757 Saturday Sports Talk, brought to you by Larry King Law. If you're injured in an accident, you call 757-INJURED for Larry King. That's 757-209-2265. LarryKingLaw.com is the website, and we'll tell you our phone number to dial in if you want to talk to us. Any questions, comments, things on your mind in the world of sports here. I am Matt Hatfield, and we got Dino Franza back in the saddle again on the other side of the glass. How are you, sir? We're about a day away here from filling out brackets.
Yeah, it's already here. March Madness. Let it all begin. We've got of course, the selection tomorrow, and the tournaments will be over, and we'll see what happens. Had a few surprises yesterday with Virginia having to pull out, as well as Kansas pulling out of their tournament.
Yeah, totally. Unfortunate with the Jayhawks and the Cavaliers there. And then we saw Duke earlier this week. I mean, it looked like the Blue Devils were on a run, Dino, and a local guy, Mark Williams. I feel old. I remember, and you do too, 10 years ago when his sister Elizabeth came in these studios back in the old VirginiaPreps.com hour days with yours truly and Rod Johnson. We had Elizabeth Williams and Coach Darnell Dozier, who recently got his 12th state championship ring. 12, by the way.
Yeah.
And Mark was a little fella then. He wasn't even a 7-foot giant, one of the best prospects in the country. Went to Norfolk Academy and then finished up IMG this past year as a high school senior, and as a freshman, he just came into his own towards the end of the season, blossoming right there at the end of that ACC tournament with a monster game, getting player of the game against Louisville. And while Duke may not have been deserving, you would have liked to have seen what would have happened with Duke and Florida State before last night's Florida State-UNC game, which was a great game. And you certainly would like to have seen UVA against Georgia Tech. I thought about this because he's a good friend, and he's been on our airwaves a couple of times back when he was coaching George Mason. Jim Larinaga, what a job he did as a 13 seed at Miami. I mean, he was up at halftime against Georgia Tech. Think about it. Had they held on to that lead and even pulled it out late, they were within 4 against Georgia Tech, actually got within 2 in the last 30 seconds. You could have had a scenario where Miami got the bye because UVA pulling out and been in the ACC championship as a 13 seed, which just seems incomprehensible.
Well, the way the year has been, it would not really be a shocker if that were to, if that did happen, because now you just look at everything and go, well, I guess that's the way it is now. Yeah, until we get some sort of normalcy back in this world.
Wasn't that a song by Bruce Hornsby? That's just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
We love Bruce. He came on with us many years ago from the Boo Williams Sportsplex.
I remember that. I was here.
You were here. That's right. And you got the music all queued up for Bruce. We got to get Bruce back on again. And his sons, Keith, who's doing great stuff, still playing ball. And anyways, let's fire up the scoreboard, because you not only have college basketball, you got high school football in March. It is really March Madness.
Well, let me ask you, what's your flavor for the scoreboard today?
Whatever you feel like. I'm all kinds of flavor. I got my Optimal Health strawberry yogurt bar, so that's my flavor for the morning in terms of my diet here as I try to increase the weight loss. I'm at 35 pounds, by the way.
35 pounds.
I know. I was a big guy before this all started in
Congratulations.
December. I'm rolling. I'm trying to see if I can get to 40 by the end of March. And a couple of teams got to the 40 mark last night in terms of high school football points. But I got to start. I have to start the scoreboard with the school I once went to, and that is the Kempsville Chiefs. As you know, Dino, hard times for Kempsville in football for many, many years. They actually had that long losing streak, which was the longest in the state, at 63 consecutive defeats before they ended it in late October of 2019 and beat Bayside 32-28. Last night, the Kempsville Chiefs, I want him to fire up the horse, that old Cliff Noble song the band used to play when I was like 12 years old, bopping around on the field, getting down and boogieing to that. Can't boogie as well now. But Kempsville, they're boogieing 21-0 shutout of Lancetown. And as you know, Lancetown, no cupcake program. They've had a lot of success over the years in football. You think back to those days with Chris Beatty, now an NFL assistant coach with the Chargers, and Percy Harvin. Kempsville, 1 year after snapping that 63-game skid, they get their first shutout since 2005, 16 years ago. And I wasn't in the hallways then. Just a little bit after me.
Well, you know what? I'll top you. You think you're old.
Okay.
When I first moved here, the Kempsville football coach was a guy that just recently passed away, Ralph Gahagan.
You're right, and he was a legend, and they had some wonderful days back in those DJ Dozier days there in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. Chiefs get it done last night, 21-0 over Lansdowne. They get 5 sacks, 4 takeaways, including a pick 6 from Amari Presley. Jalen Wade had a big game up front with a couple of sacks, too, and Karan Boyd running in a couple of scores. The Chiefs ended up rushing for 163 yards, and they're now 2-1. And here's a new one, Dino. The first team I can ever remember being 2-1, having been shut out twice this year. You say, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, shut out on the field. They got a win earlier this week because Green Run had to forfeit a 42-0 win from a week ago due to the usage of an ineligible player. So Kempsville, because of that, here they are 2-1. They played Cox pretty close their first game. It was scoreless at the half. Ended up getting shut out in the second half, and Cox is sitting atop the beach with another team that we bring up now, the Salem Sun Devils, who had maybe the thriller of the night, Sean Wilson's crew. Sean Wilson once coached at Green Run, and now the head man at Salem. He gets it done last night. So do his Sun Devils. Desmond Green with a big game for them as he runs back a punt, 88 yards, the future JMU Duke. He's one of Kyle's favorite players. I didn't say he was Kyle Hightower's favorite player. He said he's one of them because he's going to JMU. He's got a few others that also are going to play for the Dukes. And they escaped last week, by the way, against Elon. Much closer game than folks thought. We'll tell you a little about that later on the show if time permits. Salem wins it over Green Run 28-27 as Green has a big game, and they get it done over the Stallions, who dropped to 0-2, really 1-1 on the field because they got that win on the field against Kempsville, but they had to give it back. Keelan Brody Adams, remember that name. He's only a freshman, folks. 54-yard touchdown for him in the game. He's getting offers left and right, and also another strong effort for Tayon Holloway in defeat. He's a junior already verbally committed to UNC. But that Salem defense, though, it gives up 27 to an explosive Green Run team coming up with timely stops like they did a couple weeks back in that 12-6 overtime win over Princess Anne. Speaking of PA, that's another program, Dino. They had some greats. Remember Buster O'Brien just getting inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame a couple of springs ago? And those days with Buster O'Brien and Charlie Carr, that's back when my folks went to PA. That's going way back in the machine. Had some rough years. Early 2000s, they were great with Kai Parham and Cedric Humes and C.J. Phaeton. They all played the next level at UVA in Parham's case and Virginia Tech in Humes' case. And you think of Phaeton going to Tennessee. Then they had a rocky patch, and, they've been improving ever since. Tony Grimes, who was a 5-star, went off to UNC early, and they got some more talent. Tyshawn Chapman's a verbal commit to UNC as a junior, and the Cavaliers last night, taking on Ocean Lakes, who they beat in a thriller 2 years ago in double overtime, got off to a fast start, and the Cavaliers get it done convincingly, 22-7 over the Dolphins. Ryan High has a good game throwing the football for the Cavaliers. And they win it a 9-play, 85-yard drive that took more than 5 minutes off the clock late in that one, and High scored it in on a 10-yard run on 4th and inches. So PA moving to 2-1 under Coach James Yeager here. They scored 70 last weekend on First Colonial, and they're looking like a threat there to get in the door in Region 5A, which is very, very top-heavy. You've got Cox undefeated. You got Salem undefeated. Another undefeated team, and we'll get back to the Beach District in a moment, is Deep Creek. They shut out Great Bridge last night in Chesapeake 33-0 as they have won 5 in a row over the Wildcats. Andre Twine, who was on the show a few weeks back with us, with yours truly and the coach Ed Young. We did a Zoom, in fact, with him that's on VirginiaPreps.com. They're 3-0 on the season and right there among those unbeatens in Region 5A as Deep Creek gets it done over the Wildcats 33-0 to move to 3-0 on the campaign. Back to the Beach District, we told you about Princess Anne beating Ocean Lakes, Kempsville shutting out Lansdowne. You heard about Salem edging Green Run to move to 3-0 on the season. Another Beach District score for you last night, a game that yours truly and the coach Darnell Moore got to call on Facebook Live, and you can watch it up there if you missed it, folks. You want to go back and watch the game, free to view on the Virginia Beach Sportsplex Facebook page up there on Facebook Live. We'll have a link to it later on VirginiaPreps.com. Actually, in fact, it's on our scoreboard if you look for it. Bayside Marlins shutting out the Kellum Knights 34-0 as running back turned quarterback Aaron Williams threw 3 touchdowns, ran for another score, even caught some passes. He was doing it all last night. Jack of all trades for the Marlins. Lamar Law, a sophomore. Remember that name, Lamar Law. I fought the law and the law won. Larry King Law sponsors the show, and Lamar Law is going to be a player on Saturdays. You never know. If he keeps working hard and continues to develop, might even be a guy on Sundays, as he had 2 touchdown catches. Dino, a 6'5", 240-pound sophomore tight end defensive end. He looks like a big-time recruit And the Marlins get it done to move to 2-1 on the season, bouncing back from the tough loss a week ago to Cox. They had 11 different players make tackles behind the line of scrimmage, 3 interceptions for that defense as well, as Bayside gets it done. Their first shutout of Kellum since 1993. What were you doing back in 93, Dino, besides rooting on your Cubs and watching the Bulls get a 3rd championship in a row?
That's probably what I remember the most is the Bulls. That 93, wow. That's a long time ago when you come to think of it.
Bulls Suns, wasn't it? That was Barkley versus Jordan, if I remember right.
Jeez, Michael Jordan's old now.
He is. He can't do what he used to do on the hardwood. But how about that? Bayside getting its first shutout since 93 of Kellum, back when Bill King was the coach. No relation to Larry King, the one that just passed, or our man from Larry King Law.
Bill King, I remember him.
Yeah, he was the coach of the Marlins back in 93. So that covers the Beach District. We teased you with one Southeastern score as Deep Creek shut out Great Bridge 33-0. Also in the SED last night, Indian River all over Hickory 52-12 as the Braves dominate that one from soup to nuts, start to finish, 42-12 lead at the break. And the first game for the Suffolk teams last night, as it was Kings Fork getting it done over their rival Lakeland, 42-6 to give Coach Anthony Joffrion his first win at the helm of the Bulldogs. He used to play at Ocean Lakes and then had a decorated college career at Shawan University, Division II in North Carolina. No Oscar Smith. They were idle last night. Oh, there was one more score in the SED. I don't want to forget about Western Branch and Grassfield. 12-7 was the score at the half, and that was the score when it was all said and done as the Bruins get it done behind Jashawn Frazier and C.J. Frazier. The combination there, not related because their last names are spelled differently, and the Bruins prevail 12-7 over the Grizzlies to move to 2-1 on the season. So they have bounced back nicely under first-year coach Rashad Cook after losing that opener 3-0 to Great Bridge. All right, Eastern District last night. Lake Taylor, reigning state champs under coach Hank Sawyer. They were rolling. Last week they beat Maury, the Class 5 state champs. In the fourth quarter, though, they were down 16-13 to Booker T. Washington, but quarterback Jeff Foster comes to the rescue with a touchdown run, and they score it with under 4 minutes to go to escape with their 16th consecutive win over the Bookers, who haven't beaten Lake Taylor since 2004. It was Lake Taylor 20, Booker T. Washington 16 as LT moves to 3-0. A little bit of a, dare I say, a hangover coming off that big emotional build-up game with Maury a week ago, and they get to 3-0 on the season. How about Maury? Well, they had no trouble with Granby, 64-6 for Doreen McCain's Commodores, the reigning Class 5 state champs. Get it done as a Marion Granger and company cruise to victory over the winless Comets there in Norfolk. And the Norfolk versus Portsmouth battle, Norview-Norcom. It was Norview winning it 20-3 over the Greyhounds of IC Norcom. Their defense playing rather well, just 16 points allowed through 3 contests as Coach Ian Rapinick has not been jinxed by coming on with Ed Young. I mentioned he's not been jinxed by coming on with Ed Dino because, as you know, a month ago he was on with Ed when I had dart off to cover the Region 5A basketball championship, and he lost his first game, which we'll blame on Ed. He lost to Churchland in a low-scoring game, but he's rebounded nicely. I talked to him a little bit through the social pages. I gave him some encouragement. We knew Ed was the jinx there, and he gets it done winning over Wilson and Norcom. So the Portsmouth sweep is done there for Norview. They go 2-1. The rest of their games will be against the teams from the city of Norfolk. Peninsula District last night over at John B. Todd Stadium, as our pal Dominic Velarde likes to say. Nah, the Raiders were not in action from Warwick High. Instead, it was the Denby Patriots and the Heritage Hurricanes in Denby. Rallying from a 6-0 deficit after one quarter of play, they scored 27 of the game's next points, all 27 unanswered there, second and third periods, and they win it 27-12 over Heritage to move to 1-1 on the campaign. Big one today, Dino, as it's Hampton and Phoebus, 12 noon at Darling Stadium. I'm going to watch that on the Hampton Schools YouTube page. That's the rivalry, part of the Great American Rivalry Series. It'll be a good one. Won't be quite as spicy without all the fans in attendance, though.
Yeah, that's the one thing missing are the fans. Be nice when we can get back to that again.
For sure. And a couple more scores to pass along here as we're going to hit the break here in a moment. Nansman Suffolk Academy on the private school. Shout out to them as the Saints under coach Mike Beal moved to 3-1. They beat Catholic 53-15 last night as they roll to a win in that one. And Greenbrier Christian Academy, they just keep humming along through the Gators of GCA. I tell you what, Watch these young men out there. They get it done. Even though it's 8-man football, they're really talented. Coach Washington has them rolling. Greenbrier Christian all over Halifax Academy, 54-6 there on the private school scene. If you want more scores for high school football, go up to the scoreboard page on virginiapreps.com. We not only have them labeled week by week, but the entire season as well. When we come back, we'll fill you in on the ODU Monarchs. A little bit of green and gold as Norfolk State goes for an NCAA tournament bid today, playing in the MEAC Championship at the Norfolk Scope. And we'll open up the phone lines for you to give us a call at 757-687-9494. Give us a holler at 757-687-9494 right here on your home for sports. Pro, college, local, high school. We have all the flavors covered for you right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.